Let me tell you my story. I think it's really easy to feel like God should just show up the first time that we ask him to do something, especially because we read scriptures about the miracles and the waters parted and the mountains moved and just a seed of faith. And, it can do the impossible. But, we don't really want to sit in the stories about Hannah in 1 Samuel 1, where year after year after year after year, she keeps coming back to God for the one thing that her heart desires. But I think that's more the story that we live. And it's definitely the story that I was living last 2 years. I had just finished a record at the top of 2020, and everything felt like I was on the mountaintop and felt like everything I was touching had favor on it. And I went to start to work on my second record, and it just felt like nothingness. I didn't know what to say. I felt like I didn't know what to sing. I felt like I didn't know what I was doing and if God was even calling me to make another record or if I would ever write another song, because every time I wrote a song, it wasn't working and I didn't feel the breath of God on anything. And I honestly wanted to quit. So many nights I laid in my bed just being like, God, I don't want to do this. Like, I don't want to keep showing up and doing something that feels unfruitful. But God just kept saying the same thing to my spirit over and over and over. Hope, I need you to keep showing up, and I need you to keep coming back to me over and over and over, and trusting that what I have will show up right when it's supposed to, not a minute before and not a minute later. But that's not easy to do when you're believing for something and that thing is just nowhere in sight. I'm sure there's many of you right now, you're listening and you're thinking, but I've been believing God for this thing year after year after year, and I'm just still empty-handed. And during that season, God just kept leading me to the story of Hannah. And I kept thinking every year her husband would want to go to the temple, and she could have stayed home. She could have just said, I don't want to go anymore. Like, every time I've gone, it's not proven to be worth my time. And I think so often we do that. I do that. I think, why would I keep showing up here? Like, I'm not seeing anything change. I just feel like I'm in an endless Groundhog's Day of not seeing the thing that I want. But she kept going every year. And I think there was something about the tenacity of her faithfulness to just show up over and over and over again at the feet of Jesus and in the presence of Jesus that gave her hope when her heart was sick. And so I did that over the last couple of years. And for 2 years, I didn't really write much that I thought had anything to say or that I wanted to say. But I feel like God was writing something in me and on me that was more important than any song that I was writing in that season. He was writing the song of faithfulness. He was writing the song of me being obedient to just say, God, I will keep showing up at your feet because you always show up and you've never failed me. And I have history. I have history in your word. I have history in our journey together that you have always been so faithful. And so on the days when my heart is heavy and my mind is wrestling and my spirit is weak and faith feels like something I don't know how to say and it feels like a whisper and joy feels at a distance and I'm unsure of how this story is going to end, I'm going to trust that your faithfulness is going to be there no matter what. And so at the end of last year, after a really long season of just what felt like barrenness, I got a couple of friends together, and it was kind of like one of those last things, like, okay, God, I'm going to do this one more time. And if nothing comes out of this season, I'm just going to trust that we're going to do something different. Maybe this season of songwriting and songs is just not what's ahead. And maybe you have a different assignment. And I was okay with that. And I showed up with beautiful friends that I've led worship with and written with over the years. And we sat down and I began to say, I just feel barren in this area. Here I am at a songwriting camp that I've put together. And I literally feel barren as a songwriter. But I'm doing this in faith. I'm doing this as an act of faith. And sure enough, the very first song we wrote was called Coming Back. And it's the song I'm going to share with you today. because it's the story of coming back over and over and over and over again to the one who never fails. And what I learned in the process was, by the end, I didn't even need the thing that I thought I wanted for so long, because I had learned to be just satisfied with the presence of God. And yet, he's a really good dad. I'm a mom of 2 kids, and I want to give them what they want and what they need and what they desire. But I also know the right timing. And God knew the right timing. And I'm so grateful for this song, because it's tangible evidence that God always shows up right when we need him, right when we feel like we're at the end of the rope and in the midnight hour, when it feels like there's no way for this story to turn around. God always does what he says he's going to do. And I hope that this builds your faith, that God sees you. And if you keep coming back, you're going to find that he was there all along, and that his faithfulness never, ever fails.